Hello, in the video coming up, I'll be reviewing the Pixelbook Go and why it's still a great Chromebook to buy in 2022. So in this video, I'm going to go through why I decided to buy a Pixelbook Go. I'll tell you a bit about the journey. Although I've got my YouTube channel and I've got my blog, I don't get sent devices free of charge. So any device that I review is something I've had to buy myself. So I can't just go out and buy Chromebooks all the time because I simply wouldn't be able to afford to do so. So in the last few years, one of my favorite Chromebooks a few years ago was the Asus C302, and that's a great Chromebook, but the AUE date expires in 2023, but since then obviously there's different things, the AUE date, which we'll discuss as well. But back then that meant that in next year the updates would stop, so I decided to give that to my little brother and just decide to get a new Chromebook for myself. So first of all, I thought I'd try a budget Chromebook, and I brought the Asus C722. I believe that's the wrong one. I'll put it up on the video if that's the wrong model. I believe it is. It is the Ace. No, it is the C722. Now this is a great Chromebook. It's a budget Chromebook. Don't get me wrong, but for the price, I think I paid about £169, roughly the same in dollars. For the price, it's not too bad, but it hasn't got a great display. But the keyboard's pretty good. I'm nothing amazing, but it's typable. It's fine. So I bought this, but I knew I'd never just stick with this. I just wanted to see what budget Chromebooks were like now in 2022. So I brought that, but then I decided I needed to have a higher spec Chromebook. So I brought the Asus 713 Chromebook, which I've done a review about. Great Chromebook, but it just wasn't for me. I think although the aspect ratio where you get a taller display so you can see more text is good for some people, I found it quite a bit difficult to handle. It was quite big, so it really wasn't for me. And the build quality, although it was good, it wasn't perfect for me. For example, the USB ports on the side, it was a bit, if you put your hand across, it'd be a bit rough. And then I thought, well, if that hip drags on material, I know that might sound picky, but you know, I want something as good. When I had the Asus C302, had none of that, so I wanted something similar. But I appreciate that Chromebooks have changed. So then I went and bought the Asus CX5 Chromebook. Now this is a great Chromebook. It's good. I've had some issues with the sound, the speakers, and it's definitely a software issue. And I know other people have had issues with the sound with these devices as well, which is a real shame. But at the moment it seems to be working all okay. So I think with the latest updates, that's fixed the sound problems. It's a great Chromebook. Again, it's big, but that's partly my fault with getting sort of a display of such a size. This is 15-inch plus 15-inch display, so you know, what did I really expect? But it's an Intel 11th generation processor, and although it's really fast, I can even use Steam Linux Alpha on this. The problem with super powerful Chromebooks is that you do get the fans, and they're heavier, and for me, this wasn't something I could use on a daily basis. I still haven't decided if I'm going to keep it or not. I use it for some videos that I do, but generally speaking, I don't use it loads. The stylus is good, but I wanted a Chromebook that was really easy to carry around. And I don't just mean for when I'm out and about. If you are someone who goes out and about with a Chromebook, then this is definitely going to be something that I'd consider the Pixelbook Go. But it's also in the home as well. For example, with a big one like this, I can carry it with one hand, but it's quite heavy. So it's a bit of a pain. I can't just take this into bed with me and do an article if I wanted to. Well, I could, but then I've got to worry about the fans. Are they getting under the quilt? Is it going to get too hot? There's just lots of reasons why it's just not something I can use on a daily basis. So that's why, after looking at everything what was available, I decided to get the Pixelbook Go. And the Pixelbook Go has obviously been around for a couple of years, but this is an amazing Chromebook. It's obviously better than my Asus C302, which I loved, but this is obviously better because it costs more. But you can get it cheaper now because this has been around for a couple of years. Now the first thing, obviously, with the budget Chromebook that I've brought, this one and the Asus one I've just showed you, they've got AUE dates, I think about 2028. This one, the Pixelbook Go, only has an AUE date up to 2026, and the AUE date is the auto update expiry date, and after that date you'll no longer get Chrome OS updates. So yes, this will stop getting updates, but even if that's the case, I still wanted this Chromebook because I knew it would be exactly what I wanted. And I've used one before in a retailer, but it's not the same using it in a retailer from getting it yourself. Now, the good thing about the AUE date, and I've got a video, so have a look at my videos if you want to have a look, and I'll try and remember to put it in this video description as well. It's not actually going to be such a problem when this AUE date expires. Even now, for example, if you've got a Chromebook now and the AUE date is about to expire, you can just install LaCroix, enable LaCroix, and you can use a different browser, and that will keep you safe online. Yes, you will no longer get automatic updates, but you can still use your Chromebook safely. So have a look at that video if your Chromebook is coming to the end of the AUE date. So let's get on to this Chromebook and why I think it's so great. First of all, it's so light. This is such an incredibly light Chromebook, which means I can easily carry it around with one hand, whether I'm out and about, want to write a blog post at bed at night or in the morning on the settee, anything. I can just take this anywhere. There's no limitations to it. It's really nice. It's magnesium, so that's why it's really lightweight, whereas most premium Chromebooks are aluminium. So magnesium, it's got a ribbed bottom like this, which is really nice, and that makes it easy to carry. And it's got two long rubber strips down that side to make it stick on the surface if you're using it on the surface. Now again, what I love about this, you can use this on your lap, which is essentially what the name from laptop comes from, that you use it on your lap. I know not everybody does, but this, for example, the Asus CX5, using this on your lap is not nice. It really isn't. Certainly if you've got shorts on, the weather's quite nice at the moment. Using this on your lap, after a period of time, it gets really hot with the fans. And this here, which is designed to make it come slightly off the desk, if you've got it on the desk to help with typing, this actually digs into your legs, which after a while, it might not sound crazy, but because of the weight, after a while, that's quite uncomfortable. And if you have got shorts on, it actually leaves a mark there for a while before it disappears. You don't get none of that with the Pixelbook Go, and this is exactly what I wanted. It stays really cool. Now, I've used it outside and it does get hot, and I thought, oh, it does get quite hot. But when looking into it, it's the way it's been designed. It's been designed for the heat to be on the exterior of the actual chassis to keep it all fine. So it's fine if it gets hot, don't worry about it. Obviously you don't want to use it direct sunlight if it's really hot all day long. I wouldn't want to use any sort of device for that. But yeah, it's just a great Chromebook. It's really nice to feel, just to feel. It's really sturdy. It's got the nice little Google logo there, and that lid just picks up, which is really easy to do, just like that. It's so great. Now, in relation to connectivity, we look at first, there's not much connectivity on this Chromebook. All you get is a USB-C on that side and a USB-C on that side, but you do also get headphone microphone jack, which is really useful. So if I'm doing a video for YouTube and I decide to use this, I can plug in an external mic and use it to make the sound better. So that is really useful. So it's good they've done that, which I believe on the Pixel Slate that I have, that isn't the case. You had to use an adapter. So it's good they've done that on this here. There's no micro SD slot, which means you cannot add any further storage. But you know, some people might find that a bit of an issue, but for me, out of all the Chromebooks I've ever owned, and I've owned them since 2011 when they first come out, I've never used a micro SD slot to add further storage. So I've never really had a storage issue. And also you can just use an actual, I can't find one around, but you can just use a USB-C storage stick. So it's fine if you really need extra storage. So although it would have been nice to see a micro SD slot, I don't think it's the end of the world. It's fine, but there's no USB-A, and that's because obviously to keep it nice and slim, but you can use an adapter if you've got old peripherals you need to use, but it's just completely smooth all round, no jagged edges. It's absolutely lovely. Okay, so then the display. The display is really good as well. So it's a 13.3 inch display. The most models come with full HD. There is a 4K model you can get, and by all means, if you want the best of the best, go out and get that if you want to. But I personally don't think you need a 4K display on a laptop. And the reason why I say that, my Pixel Slate is 3000 by 2000, so that's slightly lower than 4K. And don't get me wrong, the images were fantastic, really looked beautiful, but it was fine in tablet mode. But as soon as I used it as a Chromebook, quite hard to read the text because it's so small. So I'm a bit unsure about having a 4K laptop. Don't get me wrong, if you want one, go out and get one. But I don't think you need to worry about that at all. Full HD on a laptop of this size, 13.3-inch display is absolutely fine, no problem at all. It's really bright, it's no problems with brightness, it's great. It just looks like a really nice display, and I've used quite a lot of Chromebooks with different displays, and this is really nice. There's nothing to fault it whatsoever. There's a webcam on the front as well, which is useful certainly now because a lot more people have to do video conferencing at home for their jobs. The trackpad's absolutely fine. One thing, again, and this is exactly the same with the Pixel Slate, so it just means that Google likes good sound. The sound of this is fantastic. When you consider how small this is, look how thin it is. The speaker, there's one up far in there, one there, really good. To the point that you could listen to YouTube on here, YouTube Music or any music provider you use, and you'd be happy with the sound quality. Don't get me wrong, if you wanted really good sonic performance for an all-night music listening session, which I do like to do now and again, then you'd always head for, you know, putting some Wi-Fi headphones on and connect to Wi-Fi, or you can use some wired headphones. But when just for daily use, the speakers are really incredibly good considering the size of this laptop. It's really, really good. Now, in relation to one thing I really needed for a daily laptop, because I blog, is something that's really good for typing on. And this keyboard, I can honestly say, is the best keyboard I have ever used on any laptop, not just a Chromebook, any laptop. They're hush keys, as Google calls them, and they really are. When you type on this compared to another keyboard, it's just a lot softer, but every single keystroke is actually recognized, and you don't feel that a keystroke isn't being recognized. Something I had an issue with the Acer 713 actually, although that keyboard was okay, sometimes I was like, has that recognized? The feedback just wasn't there for me. But this keyboard, I adapted to it almost immediately, and sometimes it takes some time to get used to a keyboard. I can type on this so much faster than another laptop because of the fact it's just, I can't describe how fantastic this keyboard is. So if you want a laptop for typing, then the Pixelbook Go is definitely the way to go. Now, did you see that? That wasn't intentional. Right, okay, so in relation to the actual specs, I went for the Intel i5 version. It's an 8th generation processor, but 8th generation processor is perfectly fine. Now, like I said, this Acer CX5 that I've got is the 11th generation processor, Intel i5, super powerful because it can run Steam Linux Alpha. But apart from Steam Linux Alpha, do I need that power to do everything I do on a Chromebook? No, not really, I don't at all. So this has got everything you need, and there's a cheaper version, the M3 version, again, absolutely fine. My Acer C302 used the M3 8th generation processor. I believe it was the 8th generation, might have been a generation before, and that was perfectly fine to use as well. So I wouldn't say necessarily that you need the Intel i5. The reason I got the Intel i5 is because I do like to use Linux apps, and Linux when you set up Linux on your Chromebook, it's like setting up a partition essentially on your hard disk, because you have to reserve what storage you want to use. So say if you set up Linux and you reserve 20 gigabyte, that 20 gigabyte is then reserved for Linux. Of course, you can change it at a later date if you want to, but it is reserved for Linux, so you can't use it then for other things like installing Android apps, downloading files, stuff like that. So that's why I went for the 128 gigabyte version. But you can get away with 64 gigabyte and still use Linux. My Chromebox that I use on a daily basis is 64 gigabyte, and I've not had too many issues with storage. Bearing in mind I've got a lot on there as well, so it's not too bad. But I did want to have extra storage, and it is obviously faster than the M3 version, but both versions come with 8GB of RAM, so you've got nothing to worry about. When it comes to using Chrome OS, this can do everything you want it to do, apart from things like Steam. But then the standard Steam, whether that works, it all works differently on different Chromebooks if you ever used it, but it can't install Steam Linux Alpha, but not many Chromebooks can, so that isn't really something I would be too concerned about. So the reason why I love this Chromebook is that it's really easy to take around with you, and I'm not talking about just going outside, I'm talking about in the home as well. It's just so easy to carry around. The display is more than perfect. The keyboard is amazing. The speakers are amazing, and all that in this tiny little case. And I just think that's amazing. It's just great. And one thing I've realized after getting more powerful Chromebooks is that when the Chromebooks first come out, 2011, they was all fanless because they was all quite budget Chromebooks. You didn't really get fans. It's only been the last couple of years that we've started to see fans. Now, I totally appreciate you need fans for fast processors, but it feels like you could be going backwards a little bit, because it reminds me of my Microsoft Windows computer laptops I used to have before the Chromebook ever existed, and the fans used to drive me nuts. But fair enough, they also had moving parts and spinning hard disk, which made it loud as well, but it's also the fans for the processor. And that's the thing what can put me off with this as well. It's fine to use this on my desk, it doesn't bother me to use this on my desk if the fans kick in, but when you've got it on your lap, it gets hot, it gets noisy, it's not great. That's the one thing I would say. So it really obviously does depend what you need. If you need a powerful Chromebook, then that's fine. But I do hope that we don't get to a stage where all Chromebooks in the future are all going to have Intel i5 quad-core processors that need fans, because I think one of the great things about a Chromebook is the fanless design. It's just great. It's so nice, no noise. And as soon as I started to use the more powerful Chromebooks, I'm like, oh no, that dreaded noise is back that I forgot that it was one of the reasons why I love the Chromebook so much, because you don't get them. So I really would say, without question, if you're looking for a Chromebook that just does everything, it's not hybrid, but I don't think, I appreciate people might use hybrid. And what I mean by hybrid, in case you don't know, is this one here is hybrid. So its hinges here can be rotated. So if I wanted to, I can use this as a laptop. I can put it in temp mode like that on my desk, or I can put it like that and use it tablet mode. However, using a Chromebook in tablet mode, and this is one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of hybrids, is it's this touching the keyboard behind. It's never felt natural to me. It's felt a bit strange. And even if I've got it on a surface somewhere, I'm worried, is it going to scratch my keys? And because I like things to be kept in great condition. I don't like getting my tech or anything in general not in great condition. I'm just a bit strange like that. But yeah, so although they're good, I really don't think you need them. The only reason that I would say tablets hybrid is good is if it's got a stylus. So for this specific Chromebook, it really is worth it, because you can use it like that, or you can have it up like that on your desk like that and draw on it like that. So I do think if you've got a stylus, then that makes sense. But if they're not, then I really don't think there's a big loss. The one thing what is more important is whether it's touchscreen or not. And the good thing about the Pixelbook Go, it is touchscreen. So if you use lots of Android apps, for example, not all Android apps need a touchscreen, and you could perfectly cope with most Android apps without touchscreen. For example, my Chromebooks I use on a daily basis, which I use an external keyboard and an external mouse with a normal normal display, so it isn't touchscreen, and I can use Android apps perfectly fine. But it is a good touch to have it, because it means I can use any Android app on the Pixelbook Go and use the touchscreen as well. So I think that's more important than it being a hybrid. I know a lot of people at first, when the Pixelbook Go come out, some people was like a bit upset that Google went down the route of just not going forward, pushing things forward, because the last Pixelbook before. This one was great and people wanted to see more. That was hybrid. They wanted to see what was next. But Google decided to actually, we're not going to do that. We'll leave the other manufacturers to do that. We're just going to make a really great laptop. And that's exactly what this is. It's fantastic. Now, in relation to the AUE date, like I says, everybody may be concerned about the AUE date, but it really isn't something you need to be concerned about. Like I've talked about this so many times before, and some people leave comments saying I totally agree, and other people leave comments going, oh, you must work for Google, saying stuff like this. I'm like, of course I don't work for Google. It's like it's just for me, it's just the way it is. When I used to have laptops which use Microsoft laptops, I never expected them to last more than 4 years, and they never did. You know, even if they did manage to get there without breaking down for some reason, that they would be so slow to use, they'd be unworkable. So although they may not have had an AUE date, they was unusable after 4 years. A laptop in general has a 5-year shelf life, a Microsoft Windows laptop. But you know, with this, it's 2026, so it's still got 4 years. And even after the 4 years, it will stop getting Chrome OS updates. But by then, I'm sure Le Croix will be a standard anyway. At the moment, for example, if you're using a Chromebook now and the AUE date's coming to the end, you can enable the Le Croix flags from the stable channel and use the Le Croix browser. And that's a separate browser rather than using the integrated Chrome OS browser. So you can still get security updates, so you'll be safe online. So essentially, the AUE date in the future, all it will mean is you will stop getting new functionality. Now, of course, that's something you want to address at some time in the future. Same as when you've got an Android phone. When you've got an Android phone, it's not going to be secure forever. A phone every 2 years and you have to replace it. It's the same thing, you know. I get that it's slightly different with Chromebooks because you do end up loving your certain Chromebooks, like I did with my C302. And yes, if the AUE date wasn't coming to an end, perhaps I wouldn't have necessarily had to get rid of it. But back then there wasn't now I didn't think at the time that Le Croix wasn't really in place, so it wasn't an option. But at the same time, I wanted to change it because I do want different Chromebooks for my blog and my YouTube channel. So I really wouldn't worry about the AUE date. Even without, if Le Croix wasn't there, you're still getting 4 years. So it is good, but because you've got Le Croix now, and I think by then it will definitely be introduced as standard, so all of that will no longer be a problem. It would just mean you'll no longer get new functionality. So if you want a great Chromebook that's got, there's nothing really I could say bad about this Chromebook. I don't know what I could say. As I said, it's not a hybrid. I personally don't think that's an issue. It hasn't got a micro SD slot. Some people, if you used a micro SD slot, fine. I've never used a micro SD slot to increase my storage. I just haven't done so. So it's perfect. Great design. Super lightweight. Amazing keyboard. I cannot explain how good the keyboard is. And the speakers are great as well. This is definitely a Chromebook I would consider. And the good news is this is getting to the stage where it will start being in clearance because it's been around for a couple of years. In the UK, I know they're on retail sites, it's starting to get cleared, and I'm sure that will be the same in the USA as well. So you can start getting deals with these now. So if you are looking for a new Chromebook, I really wouldn't be put up by the AUE date. It's a non-existent issue going forward, but this is fantastic, and this is a Chromebook I will use now, and I will still be using this when the AUE date expires in a few years' time, unless something else comes out which can beat it. And that's the thing. I personally, for what I want, there's no other Chromebook out there that beats what I want at the moment. And if you want the same sort of thing, which is a really lightweight laptop, no fans, no messing about, good keyboard, good speakers, good display, it just does what it needs to do, nothing else, then this is the one. And I don't think there is anything that can beat that just yet. It's why I still put it as top Chromebook in my top 10 list in 2022. You may not agree, you know, you might think the more powerful Chromebooks, which are great, and of course they have their place, but it all depends. But yes, if you're looking for a Chromebook and you want a fantastic streamlined Chromebook that's really lightweight and everything about it is just great, then the Pixelbook Go is a great Chromebook. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel, because I don't just review Chromebooks, because as I said, I have to buy them myself, so I can't just buy them all the time. I do loads of how-to videos for Chrome OS, Linux, Android. So please like below and subscribe to the channel for future videos, and thanks for watching.